Peter Lance, who has written 3 extensive books on 9/11, one particularly addressing the case of Ali Mohamed, the triple agent for the CIA, FBI, and Egyptian Islamic Jihad, who first came into the U.S. working as a translator for Ayman al-Zawahiri's first U.S. tour of Islamic mosques. Even though Lance has been a great researcher who has uncovered links that the authorities resisted connecting, he suggests that Ali Mohamed was ultimately Nosair's handler. But this will be challenged ahead, as it should be recognized chronologically, with early conspirators having resided some years back in the U.S., such as Wadi al-Hajj, but El Sayed Nosair first immigrated to the U.S. in 1981, while Ali Mohamed first moved in 1986. Even if Nosair had served in Afghanistan, which has never been documented or proven, looking at this time frame in 1990, following these trails of suspects, as well as those that do appear in 1993 after Imad Salem's disappearance, it's more than likely that Nosair may have been taking orders elsewhere, particularly in regards to what's plausible and what disposition Osama bin Laden was at and still connected to at this time. But Nosair was certainly the one who was guiding or what was the actual ringleader of the World Trade Center bombing conspiracy and not the blind sheikh. So in retrospect, if the warning signs of striking New York existed before the 1990s, and what appears to be the case with Nosair, as even indicated from what DA Mary Jo White, and that also bin Laden's ineffectiveness then, and still unproven status now, for being responsible or masterminding both attacks on the World Trade Center starting from 1993. Then the real question that needs to be posed is just who was ultimately responsible for targeting the Twin Towers, thus the true mastermind of 9/11. But just for the sake of argument, entertaining the idea in which Ali Mohamed was Nosair's handler, this would still significantly show the ineffectiveness of both Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden in the early 90s. Because admittedly, with the circumstance of Ali and his egotistical attitude, he made it very clear that he didn't need Osama bin Laden or a fatwa to be active. Despite his activities in the 80s that predate Al-Qaeda, this was demonstrated in the mid-90s, right before the East Africa embassy bombings, while during the trials of the Trade Center and Landmark bombing conspirators.
Ali Mohamed is indeed in California, but only a few FBI agents know about it. Remarkably, he has just accepted a dinner invitation from Jack Clunan, who is trying to use him.
He was obviously very suspicious, and for good reason, because he knew what he had done over the years and who he was close to. So he showed up for dinner one night with a couple of agents and a very great assistant United States attorney named Pat Fitzgerald. And we talked to Ali that night, and I remember after the conclusion of our dinner and our talk, Pat Fitzgerald looked at me and said, with kind of a wry grin on his face, he said, "This is one of the most dangerous men I've ever met." And we decided that we needed to gain his cooperation because he was telling us all kinds of things. He was telling us he could vanish whenever he wanted. He had contacts overseas. He was sort of, in effect, operational. We thought at first it was all bluster, that he was just making these things up. But the more we dug into it, the more we realized that this was a very serious guy that understood the history of Al-Qaeda, understood what was going on in Afghanistan, had been in Afghanistan, had helped set up training camps, knew where the training camps were, and knew what the syllabus was for training Mujahideen, had been operational, and so we'd set out to gain his cooperation.
But as the story goes, before all of this, with Ali prior to being recruited from CIA offices in Cairo, he then later moved to North Carolina and enlisted in the U.S. Special Forces. Not only did he train inactive anti-Soviet Afghan Mujahideen in the early 1990s, but he also trained Al-Qaeda volunteers and allegedly Osama bin Laden and al-Zawahiri. While on the East Coast and based on the discovered Fort Bragg Army training manuals after the Kahana assassination, it's believed Ali trained Nosair and Mahmoud Abalima, which is why Ali already became a person of interest to U.S. authorities before the Trade Center bombing. Ali Mohamed was later charged for his 1998 East Africa embassy bombings before attempting to leave the United States in 1998, as was Wadi al-Hajj, who was also linked through telephone records to Ali while living in Northern California. In addition to Ali Mohamed's native Arabic, incidentally,
he is adventurous and well-educated. fluent in English, French, Arabic, and Hebrew.